Okay, guys, good morning. Welcome back. I'm glad that you're still here in the class. So last time we started looking at, the ethical hacking and penetration testing in general. Okay, we start defining the ethical hacking and non-ethical hacking and what do you mean, the definition of a penetration testing and etc. Okay, let me remind you what we did last time. So what's the ethical hacking? We define the ethical hacking as a person of the security expert who acts as an attacker and evaluate the security of a network. And the goal here just to try to minimize the risk. Okay? Non-ethical hacking or hacker, which of course is security expert at the same time, but the problem here, this guy is going to gain unauthorized access. So you see the difference here. The ethical is going to be has an authorized access in order to perform whatever action or security testing or whatever. Okay, but for the non-ethical hacker, in this case, is going to gain unauthorized access to the target, to the network, and both of them, they're going to use the same tools, okay, in order to find what vulnerability. What do you mean by the vulnerability in this case? This means a weakness in the system, or to say unpatched software or operating system that could be exploited by a threat source, which can be exploited by the attacker. When I say exploited, that means, generally speaking, going to use maybe software, scripts, whatever, or tool in order to utilize in order to say attack the system. For example, if we have in your system a weak password, okay, so people using weak password, maybe the attacker in this case exploit or uses say a software which allow them in order to guess the password. Right? Any software crackers, that's what is called exploits. Okay, so the difference between both of them, the ethical and non-ethical, is what is the motive. Okay, the ethical hacker reports their finding, whereas the whereas the non-ethical hacker is gonna say, no, I'm gonna keep this one to myself and not try to cause a harm to the system. Okay, so to simplify the process here, or the definition, we can say that ethical hackers is what? Hired by the companies, okay, in order to perform penetration testing, okay, or tests. So penetration test is what? Is attempt to break into the company, we say network, in order to find the weak link. And it's better to find it earlier than later, yeah? Because if you find any weakness in your system, and talk about the security issues in your system, if you fix that, make your systems secure, at least you can try to close the gaps in the security system. We talked about the types of hackers last time. We said the black, white, and the gray hat hackers, okay, based on the whatever the hat that you have. You say the good guys, the bad guys, and also someone in the between. Okay, I know who drew this line. It's not me. It looks like someone managed to hack my system. Anyway, so I believe last time we stopped at what are the types of the penetration testing, right? Let me make sure, jump to the right slide. Actually, we covered this one, but it doesn't hurt to start from here. So what does it mean here? So we said the experts, or the industry experts, divide the penetration testing into three categories based on the definition of the types of the hackers. So we do have a black box testing, white box, and a gray. So what does that mean, white, black, and the gray here box model, which allow you in order to perform that penetration test? When someone hire you in order to perform penetration testing, there's three situations, three scenarios. The first one is called let's start with the black box. Black box test means in this case, the tester, as a tester, you have, let's say, a limited amount of information. I'm not going to give you information about the system. Okay, for the black box, try to mimic the real world scenarios when the attacker try to attack my system. So the attacker is going to do what in this case? Try to collect as much information as possible. I'm not going to give you anything. You say this is my network. Go ahead, try to attack, for example, the IT system here, and see whether you manage to collect information or not. Okay. The white box in this case, it's a scenario in this case, as a tester here, you're going to have, let's say, significant amount of information about the organization and the structure. So in this case, they're going to give you more details about the system, okay? So in this case, most of the time, we need to make sure that we have one area in our system that we need to make sure whether it's going to secure enough or not. So for example, maybe give you like a sample floor plan, tell you, for example, who the person or where the people are going to sit in my system, For example, you're gonna say, for example, this is the system that we have. This is where, I mean, the network administrator, for example, or where the computer can be located. This is the front desk, for example, the computer, how the computer distributed. To give you more details. And also, they're gonna give you, I mean, the sample network diagram. Here, this is very important. Okay, we're gonna see that how can you, I mean, extract this information even if we don't have this information. But this case, as I mentioned, just to simplify the process, make it easy, because I need to make sure test one area of my system. So I give you all the details about the network, so it's gonna be easy for you. Okay, because I'm gonna say, for example, I have 5, 6, 7 servers or device distributed as following. We have, let's say, subnet, for example, this one subnet. We have another subnet, for example, this one here, this another one, and they give you the IP address, and even they can give you the servers installed in each machine, so make your life easier. Now we need to start go deeper to test. Of course, when you say you make your life easier, not 100%, okay? Because I mean, for example, in this case, if I give you the web application, I want from you to analyze the web application or the software that you have. I give you access to the actual, or the, let's say, the code of the software. That means you have to go deeper. You have to debug the code to make sure whether the code is vulnerable to whatever. For example, if we talk about the SQL injection attack and etc. Make sense, guys? Kind of. The gray in between, like the hybrid. I give you like some information, but not all the information. Okay? So based on the scenarios, on the model that you have, you can decide your plan. Okay? The second one, or the second part here, we can divide, I mean, the testing, or let's say, that we can divide penetration testing methods, okay, based on different categories, okay? So in this case, it depends what area that we need to focus on, okay? So I need just to give you the scope. What's the, I mean, the area that I need to test. For example, I need to test, let's say, the web application. So this is my scope. You divide by the one higher me and say, we do have a web application. We need to make sure that whether our web applications, I mean, secure or not. Okay, so here the pen test. By the way, when I say penetration testing or the pen test, both are the same. Okay, in this case, I'm going to, as a pen tester or the tester, I'm going to use a software in order to assess the security and vulnerability of the web application and the software programs here, in this case. So when you work with a web application, you know that, for example, if you write your code using PHP, okay, you have a different way how to collect information from the user, right? You can create a form, for example, ask the user, for example, please input the username and the password. Let's say the ID and the password. You collect this information in the form, then after that, the back end, you do have like a PHP file in order to take care of this one. Extract the information from the form, then after that, try to send SQL query in order to, I mean, back end in order to figure out whether the user exists or not. Okay? So the way that you collect information here, maybe you're gonna be vulnerable to the SQL injection attack. Someone maybe you're gonna see this one later when we talk about this one in more details. You're gonna see how can you do this one based on the implementation. Maybe you have a weak implementation. For example, you don't use prepared statement in order to collect this information. Yeah, the one that work with the web application understand what I mean here. Or you don't do input validation. Whatever you receive from the user, you just inject this one in your code and just run a SQL query. So we have some problems here. So it can be tested because now we have focused on web application test. So you start to have many ways in order to try to check whether the system is vulnerable to this kind of attack or not. Okay, the second one here, or the other category here, for the penetration testing is based on the network service test. What does that mean here? Or let's say the network infrastructure. Okay, I think we have a different categories here. Whether they say network infrastructure, if we include the service here. Okay, so let's say focus on the network infrastructure first. Take a look to what the network looks like. You know that you study computer networks, right? You know that you have a router, you have a switch, you have a firewall, etc. Then you have server machines, and you can divide your network into subdomains. We're going to talk about this one later when you talk about the TCP/IP here. So here you can double check whether the everything works fine or not. For example, if you have a setting in the firewall that states that, for example, only the inbound that from specific servers are allowed to access my machine, not all, or my network. You know that you can whether allow some traffic get in or out from your network or not. So in this case, you can test to see whether it works fine or not. Another thing which we're going to focus more here in this class is network surface test. So in this case, I'm going to try to do what? Try to figure out, to find out whether we have any opening ports in the network or not. Yeah, you are not close all the ports in your machine, for example, or the service. So it depends whatever. You have Apache server or services installed in one machine, running in one machine. I need to check this one, whether it's allowed or not, whether it's vulnerable to whatever, any kind of attack or not. The third one, we're going to talk about the wireless networks here, which makes sense here in this case. You need to identify the open, unauthorized, or low security hotspot in the Wi-Fi in order to get through them. Okay. The other one is called the physical penetration test, which is an interesting thing here. In this case, I'm not going to use any tool. For example, you have your server is installed in one room, and the room is locked and not allowed to anyone to access this room. What I'm going to do here, I'm trying to physically do this one by myself, try to access this room. Either impersonate someone or waiting to say, I like this one. When you remember that in the IIT, in the computer science department, I mean, the Stewart building, at 5 o'clock, the door is going to be locked, right? Automatically. Without your card, you cannot get in. Yeah, but you can get in easily, even you forget your card. The only thing that you need, wait until to find anyone or use his card or her card to get the building. While the door is still opening, you just to get through the door. No one knows, right? So the same thing here. So here, try to figure out what to expose the weakness in the system parameter, whether they will guard the location or not, whether they allow you as a person to go through the lines without discovery or not. Generally speaking, here mostly using the government sites or other source facility here. Okay, again, you try to access the physical network device at access point in a market security breach. For example, if you manage to plug your computer for one of these computers, there, let's say Ethernet, plugged in the building, so you have, access within this network. Okay, the other thing is called the social engineering test. We're going to see this one later here. So here we try to do what as a pen test scenario. By the way, this is going to be black or white or gray. It's more detailed. One of them, it might be you before your test under the black box mode. But in this case, you have many options, all right? You can do all of them. So they're going to be, looks like we have what's called, we are going to further subdivide, the penetration testing method into the following. Back to the social engineering test. You know what's the easy way to get the password for anyone? To ask him or her directly. And you're going to be amazed. We get a chance, guys, I think the chance may be more than 50% you're going to get the password. Why? You are going to track him or her. Either going to use a phone call this guy and say, hi, this is your password, try to log into the system. I cannot access, or to say, the simple thing, you can tell the person that someone attacked his system. Right now, you have a suspicious activity in your account, please confirm username and password. Some people can say, yes, that's my username and password. You know what happened in the Amazon right now, right? A few months ago. In Amazon, you have 2 factors, right? In order to protect your account. So what the attacker going to do right now, it's going to try to change your password. So if you have a 2-factor setting in your account, the Amazon is going to send you the code in your phone, right? As a message. They say someone, you need to change your password, and this is the code in order to confirm your identity. Then the attacker is going to call you and say, hey, this is Amazon, someone will try to access your account, you need to, just to confirm your identity. Please, we send you just a code. Can you tell us the code that you sent it to you? Some people are going to follow this check, and they're going to give their code to this guy. And that guy is going to use that code in order to change the password. Okay, so it's going to be easy. So in this case, you try to get, check their users using phone calls, emails, in order just to track them in order to give those, share the credential. Okay, makes sense so far? Good. The other thing here, we can generalize, or summarize the role of the ethical hacking as the following here. The first one here, you're going to see, ethical hacking role is to take the skills that he has acquired and use this knowledge in order to simulate a hostile attacker. So as an attacker here, you try to attack the system you're gonna use the same tool, the same technique the attacker gonna, or the bad. Let's say you say the bad guy tried to perform in order to access the system, but make sure that you have the following here. You have to get the permission. You have to get written. Someone is there. When someone hire you, they said, "Okay, give me consent, permission that I'm allowed to access this network. I'm allowed to ping whatever the service or the IP address that we have in the system here." Of course, you're going to use the same technique or strategy that or tools that malicious hacker or the bad guy are going to use here. Yeah. Make sure that to avoid to harm the system. This is the most important thing. Doesn't mean that you're going to use all the tools the bad guy is going to use, because the bad guy is going to use some tools which make the system down, right? For example, you can perform some test with going to perform denial of service attack. We're going to see this one later if we get a chance. So what does that mean, denial of service attack? So for example, we have a client who will say this is user, and this is here the server. The server, for example, can handle, just an example, okay, 100 requests per minute, or per second, for example. If I receive 100 requests to query in my server, I can handle them. More than not, I can't. So for the attacker, I'm going to do what? I'm going to simulate this kind of attack. I'm going to try to make the server unavailable. So in this case, instead we have 100 requests, I can manage to send, for example, 1,000 requests per second. So the server here cannot handle all of them. So what's going to happen here is going to drop, let's say, a legit, request from legit user, right? So the server is going to be unavailable in this case. So you're going to cause the system going to be down. If you do this one, these guys that hire you in order to test the system, but might going to sue you. They're going to say, oh, you dropped the, no, we try, you ask you to test the system, not to stop or prevent us to do our business, daily work, right? Especially the one that hire you is the online banking or the bank. So the online bank is going to be unavailable for a few hours. It's going to cause a problem. So we need to make sure that you are not going to do any harm to the system. Or you send request, do some tests which is going to cause in order to delete some files at that organization. Now you need to be careful. Yes, we said here you are going to use the same strategies and tools that malicious user hacker use, but at the same time, make sure that you are not going to do any harm to the system. Okay, you need to keep tracking, update yourself, keep tracking with all the knowledge of the hacker techniques. Every day we have something new, so you have to keep yourself updates here. Okay. Make sure that you have rules, established rules and engagement or guidelines prior to any activities. You have to show them, for example, what you're planning to do, what kind of tools you're going to use, and what might happen to their server. Might I use this tool, it's going to cause this one. Oh, no, don't do it. Oh, that's fine. Something like this. Yeah? Okay. So now let's take a look. How can you perform the attack? Okay? What's the actual steps that the attack is going to perform here? So I know that we have different ways of models, black, white, gray, and we can have can be further subdivided into other categories: web application, web server, network, wireless, physical penetration, social engineering test, and etc. But we do have something else here. How can you do this one? For example, I want to start to do a penetration test. I'll hack a specific system. These are steps, right? Of course, we don't have a specific step-by-step technique or approach that all the hackers that use, but I'm going to give you the one that maybe makes sense. Most of the hackers are going to follow these steps, but not 100%. Which those steps that we're going to start looking at starting, I think, not next week. Next week, we're going to talk about maybe in 2 weeks. We're going to start talk about these steps one by one, and we're going to have, we're going to practice all of them. So anyway, the first step is to get a jump. You need to plan for penetration testing or the hacking testing or let's say security test. So you need to get, for example, consent from the user or the one that hired you, and you need to come with a plan. What kind of tools that you're going to use, what they're going to perform, how long it takes. For example, I need to perform the first step, for example, takes 1 to 2 weeks. Then the second step, maybe there another week, and so you need to organize to have a complete plan. Okay? And also here, this plan, you're going to decide whether we're going to use a black, white, or gray box. It depends with the one in hierarchy, whether they're gonna give you the information or not. Maybe they're gonna say, no, 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 I wanted to have to mimic the actual or the real word they say hack. What the actual hacker can do here. So this you're alone. You need to figure out by yourself. Oh, this is information that I can provide you. Okay, I remove this one, but this is that makes sense. Is the first originally before you do anything. The actual step after you plan, now you need to do the first one is reconnaissance and information gathering. Then after that, you're gonna do the scanning. The third technique after that, you have to say gaining access or the system hacking, then escalating of the privilege, covering tracks, and planting backdoors. And the last one, of course, you have to report your finding. Okay, so let's take a look one at a time with more details. What do you mean with the first one? And don't worry, if you miss something, it's not clear 100%. The only thing I need to read from you right now to know that we have like a plan we need to follow step by step in order to start hacking the system. It might be different from hacker to another hacker, from one to others, but most of them you gotta follow this one. Okay, not the exact one, but at least if you follow this one, you're gonna be fine. Okay, let's take a look at the first one. Reconnaissance or footprinting, sometimes you call this one, or information gathering. The first thing, when you try to attack the system, you need to get some information, acquire information about the victim. Let's say the victim in general, okay? Or the one that you try, or the victim's system. So, for example, if you wanted to attack a person, yeah, I need to get information about this person, whether they have a social sites or accounts, whether it has email, where he or she work, what kind of email, if they're an organization, for example, like IIT, just an example, okay, don't do it, okay? So let's say collect all the information about the IIT. From where I got this information? First, I will try to hide myself. I need to say passively acquire this information. I'm not going to try to touch the server directly at the beginning. So it looks like you see what? Go for the IIT and try to collect, for example, iit.edu, all the information about the IIT. From where? From the internet. Okay? Go to their website, just scroll. I'm not going to send anything. I'm not going to interact with their servers or anything, or their server. No, just collect information about the users and etc. Okay, the one thing that we can use here, you can get, for example, what the IP address they're using here, the main IP address. We're going to see that. How can you perform that? The one simple tool that we can use, you can use WhoIS, okay, or you can use Google search. You can go about the job board search, which is going to give you more details. We're going to see, for example, if we have specific organization and they found this organization, they said, we're looking for someone expert in Windows 11, for example. So, or let's say SQL Server. Oh, then you can get the information that they have service called SQL Server. They use SQL here. Oh, they said MySQL. Oh, they working with the MySQL. So the database is MySQL. All this information is going to help you later to decide, for example, if you want to go against the web application, though you know that their server backend database, for example, MySQL or Postgres or whatever. So from the word, I mean, from let's say the job ads, you can collect this information. It's interesting technique, a way, but you get as much as you can about the server, about the users, and etc. As I mentioned, we do have two types. Okay, the first one is let's say with the passive, the easy one. Try to collect this information about the target without accessing the target. I'm not gonna use Bing, for example, the IP address to that target. If you use Bing or whatever, they can't collect this information. They can't tell, for example, a specific IP address to try to ping one of these machines also. So now maybe raise a flag to them. They say, oh, someone tried to figure out what's going on. Yeah? So in this case, just collect. And we have many means, social media, public websites, etc. You can collect this information. Okay? The second one, or the second type of the reconnaissance in this case, is active. Now starting interacting with the machine to gather information. For example, you can use Nmap. You're going to see this one in order to scan maybe the target, in order to ping whether the specific services exist or not. We're going to see how can you use them later. Make sense first? So you're collecting enough information about the target. It makes sense. In order to attack someone or fight against anyone, you're not going to close your eyes, just punch him. No, you need to think. He's alone. Okay, great. No one can help him. Okay, great. Oh, he's bigger than me. He has a karate technique or whatever. He has a kung fu or whatever. No, I just want to stay away. Something like this. Of course, you're not going to attack anyone, but I know. Weird example. Yeah, makes sense. It looks like you're driving your car and someone is screaming at you. You look at him first. If he's bigger than you, you shut your mouth. Yeah, is more true, more than one driver. He has someone sitting with his car. It's okay. Don't say anything. He's alone, and you have friends in your car. Maybe you can fight back, right? Scream back. Yeah. Anyway, so after you gather this information, now jump to the next one. I need to perform what? Scanning. So in this case, whatever information I got, I need from the, you see that from the first phase, whatever I collect is going to help you in order to jump to the next phase. Okay? Now I need to get more details about the vector. Okay? So in this case, I'm trying to do what? I'm trying to, let's say, do bot scanning, for example. Check the network, the IP address that we have, how many servers. So it looks like you try to build the, let me go back here. The network diagram, something like this. By pinging, you see how many machines do you have, what the IP address, you get this one, ping this one, in order to try. When you ping, and also you're going to show you some techniques that allow you to figure out what kind of servers are running at that server or that machine. So this one is going to be more details, more information. You're going to build the network. If you manage to build the network diagram here, now you can, folks, you can have like help you in the next step to go what we can do here. Okay, so building, at least you know your IP address ranging from this IP to that IP address. Okay, that's my focus right now. Okay, so the scanning here takes the information that obtained during the previous phase with the reconnaissance here of the collector information and use to actively acquire or get more details information about the victim here. Okay, here we can use ping, okay, to all the IP address, since I know what the IP address is ranging from A to B, in order to find out or see which machines respond. If we got machines respond, so I can tell, I can build the network diagram. Now I have more details, so I can tell what kind of service with the time. Okay. By the way, right now, what I need from you is so that this looks like organized way in order to attack the system. Many phases. Each of them is going to be based on the top of the previous phase. Whatever I collect or get from the phase 1, for example, it's going to help you elaborate, get more details of phase 2. Whatever I got from phase 2, it's going to help you in order to jump to the phase 3 added it. Okay? You can get maybe here user accounts here, but how many users you have. And you can use the emails, etc. I know who the email. Most of the information is going to be available online, plus the one that you can bingo observe what target can respond. Okay? Then after that, now, the third one, or the next step is going to be what? Gaining access. I need to do what? I need to do what? Now I know what kind of services that we have here. So I'm trying to get access, or going to be log in, or let's say break into one of the machines that we have, or in the system that we have. Okay? So I know what kind of vulnerability in the system was, for example, using Windows 95. Just an example, whatever weird Windows, okay? There's many machines still working with Windows 95 or 98. So one option, yeah, because the people are lazy, they cannot afford to get new machines, updated, upgrades, etc. That's one thing. Or even the new Windows, but it's not unpatched. Okay? Oh, as unpatched, that means how many people do you think that you're going to update their Windows every day? Not everyone. Okay, some organization lazy, they don't do this one. So they're unpatching, since there's a new vulnerability discovered, and the system is not protected against this one. So now I can do, oh, I know. I'm going to use this vulnerability in order to gain access to that machine on the server. Okay? The primary tool that we're going to use is Metasploit, okay? Or Metasploit. So we're going to see how can you use this one later. So once you gain access to the system, what do you think the next step here? Maybe you're going to gain access as a normal user. Now you need to escalate your access or privilege to the root. If you manage to do this one, now we have a full control about this machine. Okay? Then, once you escalate, you are escalating your privilege. Now you are in the system. You're going to have maybe... that's why, by the way, when you say the users, please don't use the root when you log into the system. Because if someone, it's right now, you look in the system, someone managed to access the system and gain access as the root. Okay? Then after that, you need to cover your tracks. I need to be straight. I'm already there. I'm in the system, but I don't want anyone else can, for example, figure out or find out I'm or currently in the system or the system is attacked. Okay, that's one thing. Not all of them is gonna do that. Okay, but for us right now, we need to learn how can you cover our attack. I mean, tracks. I mean, not attacks. Okay, so here you can, for example, change your MAC address first before you perform this attack. That's one way. Okay. You can, for example, I'm not going to use my own machine or attack the system. You use VPN or maybe use, another machine in order to perform that attack. Yeah, we're going to see if we get time. How can you perform this one later? Okay. So it looks like you try to destroy, the evidence of a crime that you perform or conduct. Once you get to access the system, what you need to do here? I need to, maintaining the access, right? Sometimes I need to stay longer. Or maybe since I found something in the system or vulnerability, I managed to access today. I want to keep, my chance to access the system later, a later time. Okay, maybe tomorrow, next week, next year, whatever. That's what it's called. I'm going to planting backdoors. Okay. So again, you already managed to, by the way, it depends on your goal, what you'd like to do, whether you're going to access this one time or you're going to keep like a backdoor going to help you in order to access the system directly for the later use. Okay? So again, backdoors can be used in order to regain access to the system. You can perform this one in order remotely controlling the system. We'll try to do this one later. Yeah, but we're going to try to test this one in the vector machines and the virtual machine. Okay? Then the last one that you have to report your finding, of course, right? You have to tell, for example, the last phase. I don't know why I skipped this one. I updated the slides yesterday, but I'm supposed to add one slide here. It was there. It looks like I hide the slide. Anyway, risk analysis and reporting. Definitely the last thing is the ethical hacking or hackers. You need to do what here? As a hacker, not hacking. Anyway, you need just to report whatever you find. I found this machine. I found that this machine has installed the set of software, is vulnerable, is unpatching, and the solution you have to keep patching your machine. Yeah, I found that, for example, many ports are open, which are unused against the firewall or the security policy that we have. You need to close them. You see that you have to report whatever you found. That's why here, when you do the test, for every single step, you need to keep tracking all the information and keep document everything that you gather for every single step in order to make sure that you have, your reporting can be well written at the end. Make sense? Great. So now, how can you be an ethical hacker? Okay, there's many ways to do that. Okay, I'm not the big fan in order to get the certification in this case. There are many certification. I'm not gonna go over this one. There's one way to perform that. I believe that you can learn this one by yourself. Okay, you can do this one, but it's gonna take time. Okay, the problem with the certificate here, most of them, I don't know. It looks like you need to memorize the stuff. Then after that, you have just to answer a question. Then you are ethical hacker or the hacker. Does make sense. You have to do by learn it by doing. So which certification pass, it depends on you. The dangers, as you mentioned, for the certification exams, because they're gonna test you at the exam at the end. And the exam is going to be, most of them or some of them, memorization or memorized technology, whether this one TCP/IP protocol, whether this one, how can you manage or access the system? I'm going to use NAM, blah, 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 etc., but without actual training here. So what we can do legally, I'm keeping emphasize legally here, okay? Make sure that you follow the rules, okay? And make sure that, for example, we have 50 states here. United States have, I'm not going to say where, but one state, for example, allow you to do that. The other state said, no, you can't. Yeah, you have to double check, the country or federal, the federal law and the state law. And make sure that you are safe. I believe some states, I'm not sure, but lock picking tools is not allowed, right? I'm not sure. Hawaii, I don't remember which state that not allow you to have, if they catch you with the lock-picking tools, that you're gonna charge you with a crime here, or felony or whatever. I'm not sure which, state this case. That's why I said, I mean, from one state they say yes, the other state says not. So double check. Is it legal? And I'm not sure. But I'm not sure. That's why I said I need just to double check here. Which locks picking tool? I think Hawaii is not allowed. Let me check this one quick here. Yeah, you see that owning a lockpick set is illegal in Nevada, Ohio, and Virginia. So if you are there, don't do it. So that's, I mean, that you need to make sure that, because that you need to double check. You need to see whether it makes sense or not, whether you can do that or not. So that's why the laws vary from, I mean, state to state and the country to the country. Okay. Yeah, in the labs, I will ask you to do. Well, I'm going to talk about the labs, so at least I will ask you to do some search about the law that whatever state that currently you resides right now, because you have some online students. I believe we don't have online students. All of you resides here in Illinois, so you need just to check Illinois. Or you check, I mean, your home state. I'm not sure which state you come up with. You need to make sure that whether the law can you perform that or not. Okay. For example, is the port scanning legal or not? Check with this one, okay? Double check with the internet service provider. I'm talking about when someone tries to hire you to be penetrating or to say tester or to say ethical, to be an ethical hacker. You need to make sure that you do everything legal in your case. In my country, do whatever, but here you have to follow the rules. Okay? We have many laws. You have to follow all of them. You need to be safe. I'm gonna go over this one later because you're gonna, I mean, just you need the takeaway from this slide. You have to follow the rules, federal law, and I mean the state law. You have to double check, make sure that you are safe before perform anything here. What I mean, but as a general rule, what you cannot do legally, you cannot access any computer without permission. You cannot do that. Okay. You cannot delete data without permission. If you found something, don't do anything. Or I said, don't. Some people log into the system and say, "Oh, they have some data extra," or they are, I mean, for the trash can, let's delete this one. Don't do it. Or your trash bin. I mean, don't do this one. Don't delete anything. Or I said, the system is not updated. I'm gonna update it. Don't do it. Don't do anything. Don't change the system, because sometimes maybe they have some old application that work with the old version of the system. If you update this one, you're gonna cause the system crash. Just give them to say you figure out or find out something, and as a remediation plan or whatever in order to fix this one, you have to do this. Don't do anything without permission or asking them. Don't copy information. You found something in another victim or managed to log in, for example, to the remote server and you found interesting information. You need to copy them. Don't do it. I mean, because if it catch you, they're gonna have a problem here. Okay. Of course, don't installing any virus in the system. Even when you try to do the test, yeah, and also, I mean, especially the virus that deny, I mean, the system is going to work properly here. This is the most important thing. Be careful. Whatever action that you're going to perform here, that might be prevent the client from going to do their daily basis work or their job. Yeah, as I mentioned, for example, the example for the denial of service attack, if it overwhelms the server. So in this case, maybe the system you're gonna prevent the client from doing their work, and get it writing. Must be. Everything you're gonna perform, you have to get their consent. You are allowed to perform this one. If you are not familiar, how can you write this one? There are many options, many sort of textbook, many websites can help you to come up with, I mean, form. The template you can use in order to perform this one. It is similar to the template that you use a realtor or when you rent a house. They have the same form. The only thing they change their names and your house and just fill the gaps. It's similar to this one. Okay. It takes a long time in order to become, I mean, hackers. Okay. As I mentioned, it's a hobby, lifestyle, and attitude. Okay. So you have to work hard. This class just introduce you, just to say there's something interesting you can pursue. We'll try to do our best in order to teach you. You're not going to be like a script kiddie. Hopefully not. Just use the tools without understanding. We try to encourage you to change, modify, try to work hard in order to figure out, or by learning most of the time, in order to make sure that you can be, not skeptically, okay? Anyway, it takes time, years, maybe you can spend 3 or 5, 6 months in order to every day work on this one. And you have many resources actually you can do this one. Not even this class. You have many options. You can go online. You have many people. They have many hackers now sharing their experience. So maybe you can use whatever they're going to teach you. But most of the most important thing, if you want to download anything, you're going to test anything, please use the virtual machine. Don't do this one on your own machine. Okay? So this is the summary of the first part of today's lecture. We talk about, at least we come up with, the ethical hacker. The most important thing, we define what do you mean by the hackers in general, what do we distinguish between the ethical and non-ethical, and we encourage you to be ethical hackers. Okay? We said that we have many models we can use for the hackers in general, or penetration testing. It's going to be the white, black, and gray, and we talk about there's a different certification if you're interested to learn about this one, but don't waste your money since all the resources are available online right now. Okay, and you need to just to perform or follow the rules. Okay, so that's all for the first part, and now I'm gonna jump to the next part here. Okay, what's part 1? Now we're done with the first. We know that the definition, etc., and we are ready in order to jump to the next one. What do you mean here? We're starting working with the Kali Linux, with the most important thing. I believe that most of you are familiar with this one. It doesn't hurt if we go over this one again, okay? So the objective of this part, of this chapter, I'm going to describe the Linux and come up with some of the Linux features. I'm going to explain or talk about the Kali Linux, okay, explain some of the basic, working with the Linux in general, the commands, etc. And also give you maybe 1 or 2 slides about the live CD and the virtual machines. We have the first lab. It's already, by the way, in the blackboard. I'm going to talk about this one within this class. Today we're supposed to go through the labs, to allow you to do the labs, but we don't have enough time to cover the theory part. As you mentioned, mainly the class is going to be divided into 2 parts. Or the week class is going to be divided into 2 parts. Mondays, we're going to cover the theoretical, or the theory behind whatever we need to cover in the lab. Then Wednesday, we're supposed to do the labs together. But this week, I didn't finish the material for the Monday, so I have to use, Wednesday instead. Anyway, when you talk about the Linux, I'm not going to go over this one in more details, but as a security professional, okay, you have to understand different types of operating system. Okay, Windows, Mac, Apple, Linux, different types of operating system, because when someone hires you, you need to be aware we have a different operating system, how can we handle them? The most operating system that we need to have, because that contains the tools that allow me in order to perform penetration tests, is the Kali Linux. Kali Linux came from what? The Linux. So at least we need to go over the Linux system, operating system. It's open source. Yeah. What do you mean the open source? That means you can use them without charge. Okay. It's some of them can be free, the Linux. Some of them you have to charge. They charge you in order to use them all for the support. Okay. Generally speaking, Linux operating system has a command line and the graphical user interface GUI, so we can use both of them. Although many people, when you work with Kali Linux is that, or they say the experts or professional experts for the security, when you work with the Kali, mainly they prefer to use the command line interface, because there's some commands it's easy to write this one using the command line than the GUI. But things change with the time. I think right now you can do most of the commands, if not all of them, even using the GUI. So it's going to be much interesting to you. The only difference is that if you never use Linux, you see something, maybe some people say, oh, it's hard to work with. Yeah, because we are not familiar. Most of us are right now working with Windows and Apple, right? We don't have, not all of us are familiar with the Linux, but it doesn't hurt. So the goal of this lab, of this class, of this part, this class, to introduce you how to use a Kali Linux, how can you install them in the virtual machine, and to get familiar, used how to use some commands, because mainly we're going to use it. Then the next lecture, we're going to just focus on work with the Linux, Kali Linux. Yeah. So by the way, when you said Linux is free or large, free and open source, doesn't mean that it's not powerful or useful. It's very important. Very powerful machines, our operating system, and very useful here. Okay, Linux is available in many different variations. Okay, known as distribution, Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, Debian, OpenSUSE. I mean, have many options, distribution. Okay, in the one. So the most important thing, one of distribution for the operating system that you work with is the Kali Linux. The Kali Linux is one interesting operating system here. It's a little bit different from the other distribution of Unix or Linux in general. The version that you work here with the Linux is built on Debian distribution, okay, and designed mainly for one thing, the hacking or penetration test. It's allowing you, you're gonna see the full loaded of the tools that we're gonna use here as an ethical or not ethical hacker. You're gonna use the tools of the Linux, okay. So the tool itself, when you work with this one, is still Linux, okay? But it's not designed to be used as a desktop or replacement operating system. So don't use this one as Windows or whatever, Ubuntu or whatever other operating system just to work with this one. The goal or main goal, just use this one as a tool in order to allow me to perform hacking or penetration test, okay? Some people install this one on their own machine as a main operating system because mainly they use this machine in order to perform hacking. I prefer to install this one within, the virtual machine. So in order to save your computer, okay? It's based on years of knowledge of experience. We don't have Kali right now. From the first time we would work with the ethical hacker with penetration testing, the first version was Kali, was different operating system. We say different version of distribution for the Linux, or Linux operating systems. Some people maybe old like me are familiar with the backtrack, with the old version. Right now we mainly working the Kali. So the Kali is the successor of the backtrack with another operating system. You see that you used to have different operating systems on the kernel in order to build this tool or this Linux distribution. Ubuntu used to be Debian, I think, starting from 2013. And now we have, mainly the Kali Linux is based on the Debian, test our distribution. Anyway. So we need to take a look at some of the basic working of the Linux in general here. So generally speaking, when you start anyone working with, Linux here, we need some level of competence with its interface, navigating its directories and files. Okay, and also we need to be familiar with the Linux commands. If you're old like me, I work with a disk operating system, DOS operating system. Yeah. It's a weird one, but help me in order to understand the Linux, because mainly we're gonna use at the time we used to command line to perform all the commands most of the time. So we're familiar. I see when you move the Linux, said okay, they didn't see any difference. I think for the interface, but for someone works with the Windows and etc., jump to the Linux, said oh no, command line. What? I need to create file, for example, folder. At the early days, there is no GUI, or the GUI maybe doesn't support, or I'm not familiar how to use a GUI interface. So in order to create a file, a folder, move from one to one. For the Windows, just drag, and drop somewhere else, or click the right mouse button of the mouse, create folder, move, delete. But if you have a command line, you have to use your hand. You have to write the command in order to tell the system what exactly you're going to do here. So anyway, so let's take a look at the interface here. Okay. One of the biggest, misconceptions about the Linux, that the Linux only allows you, in order to operate with the Linux, you have to work with the command line. Not the command line and the GUI, graphical interface. So you can use both of them in order to perform the command. As I mentioned, some expert computer, professional or advanced users don't use the GUI at all. Okay, and as I mentioned, there's some commands allow you, it's not working only using the command line because it's sophisticated, but right now it changes all the time. I think the new versions, Kali Linux, I mean, in general, when we talk about the Kali Linux, that all you can use the GUI in order to perform almost all the commands. Okay, the second thing that we need to perform, or take a look here, I mean, the basic Linux navigation here. One of the biggest difference that you will notice here, or in the Linux operating system, if you are transferring from the Windows, okay, how the drivers, okay, or the drivers is going to be referenced here. In the Windows, when you log into the Windows, you have the driver is going to have the letters, right? C and D or something like this. You can see you have the driver C, something, or D, yeah, something like this. Here now, in the Linux here, drive is like, and the partitions are referenced by using series of file names, and the file names maybe follow this format. Maybe you're gonna say, for example, in the Linux here we have a dash or forward dash or slash device, for example, hard disk, for example, A1. Then after that, maybe give you a specific file that you're gonna be here. So we're gonna use here as the forward slash is used to indicate the root directory. So this one is going to be root here, in my case in the Linux here. Okay, with the Windows, maybe you have a C, something like this. Yeah, good. The other thing, the design here. What do you mean the design? By the way, the file system in the Linux are following the file system hierarchy standard, FHS. I'm not sure whether you studied this one in the operating system class or not. I'm not sure whether operating system class maybe cover different operating system in general. I'm not sure. Maybe they teach operating systems in general, or maybe give you some examples about how the operating system or the file system in the Windows and Linux, how it works, what's the difference, and etc. So I'm not sure whether you learn this one. It doesn't matter here. The most important thing is that you need to be familiar with the system. It's completely different from the Windows, but there's similarity. We're going to see this one later. At least we have a command line and GUI. By the way, in the Windows, we do have a command line. We can perform the command line too, right? But mainly we're going to use the GUI here. The navigation, the way the file or directory is going to be notated is different than the Windows. We're going to use here the forward slash just to indicate the directory in the file system that we have. Okay. The other thing is the design here. We do have what is called the important Linux directories here. So the most here when you navigating, many different directories of the Linux system, file system here. We take a look here. We see that we have a slash, for example, forward slash bin. You're going to see, if you are familiar with the Linux, you're going to see forward slash for the one directory called bin, which is the binary, which it contains all the executable in this directory, which can be accessible or usable by all the system users, which similar to the Windows folder that has, the Windows operating system here. The other file is slash boot, for example, which is going to be, directory, sorry, not file, which contains all the files required in order to start up and boot Linux operating system. We have another folder or directory, sorry, is called device, which here and where the files are going to be stored here that indicate or dictate, the axis between the hardware and the operating system. As generally speaking, you can think about the drivers folder in the Windows. They're going to be here. The file slash home, for example, here, it's going to contain all the this is like a location that all the user can store their information by default here. And we have for every single user, we're going to have like slash home, for example. If you have a Kali user or the user one, they're going to has a sub folder here, so this user can store this information in this file. And the slash lip with the library, and etc. with the library file. Similar to the library folder in the Windows here. So anyway, we do have some vital, or we have a vital directories in the Linux system, which the directory that I talk about this one, for the slash bin, slash boot, slash etc, slash home, slash lib or mount, slash is a root, slash binary, slash temp, slash user, and etc. These kind of files here, or the directories, is called built-in directories. this one is going to help the administrator that if someone tried to create this subdirectory or this directory in different place in order to try to trick the other user to try to maybe trap them or try to trick them in order to think this is, I mean, the original files or folder, maybe you're going to trick the user in order to maybe misuse or misconfiguration of the system so the administrator can tell. Those files must be in the high level, in the root, and must be protected. That's the meaning here, awareness of the built-in directory. Anyway, the most important thing here, you need just to be familiar with the Linux system, how it works, what kind of interface that we have, what the kind of file of the system, what the kind of the directory that we have. We do have the built-in directories that must be in the one place in the root, and this one not allowed to be inside in the user subdirectory. That's what we talk about here. Generally speaking, when you write your command, the command is going to show like, one thing, by the way, let's jump here. I think we do have, yeah, those are the list of the vital directories that I talk about here. You see that? This is the description. You don't need to understand, memorize all of them, but with the time you can understand what you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for executable file, this file must be in the binary, for example. If you try, for example, you create temporary file system, if you want to say, find the root directory, this is the /root here, okay? If the file that you want to access the directory, sorry, that contains all the information about the running processor or process that in the Linux system, so you're going to find this information there. So you know exactly where you need to go here, okay? Okay. I need just to see the command. I think the command shares the common form. Generally speaking, we have like when you write any command here, we need to have, let's say, the terminal. Okay, we're going to talk about this one later. So we have something like this here. Generally speaking, by the way, in the command prompt, it might be something like this. It might be have a root, for example. Okay, at, for example, ABC. Just an example. Okay, and maybe have pound or $sign, something like this. And this is the prompt. That means here you can write your command here. So this is generally speaking going to be like, I think, the login that the users that use in order to log into the system. I log in as a root, and this is going to be the device name. Okay, I'm going to talk about this one later. I think we have one slide. Yeah, the file name, command. By the way, the commands must be case sensitive. This means the uppercase and lowercase is different. For example, if you said ls, or you try to log into the desktop, for example, the desktop is going to be stored like this, desktop. If you write, for example, cd, we're going to see this command, space, desktop, the system is going to say, oh, this is not different. They are different, they are not the same. They must be have a case sensitive here. Okay, so anyway, the command prompt that we have is going to indicate, I mean, the user account login in, which in this case where you log in as a root here, and also the computer name, which in this case, for example, ABC. Okay, then after that here, the symbol that we have, the bound here, means that you have, I mean, privilege. You have a privilege, you can access this account, the current folder or directory. If you have a $sign that you don't have a privilege, or you have, let's say, the standard privilege. We're going to talk about this one. We need to have a standard privilege. Maybe you need to double check whether you have only reading. Only. You cannot create, you cannot delete, you cannot execute anything in this folder. As you mentioned, case sensitivity, you need to make sure that it's not similar to the Windows. The uppercase, I mean, the difference for the, so as you mean, the desktop, completely different from the desktop here. Okay, so if you get this error when you perform any command and you get this error file or directory not found, that means you know exactly what's going on. What's the problem here? Okay, anyway, so we talk about this one. Okay, the home, the root, and the directory that we have, which is going to be the similar to the folder in the Windows. We do have a terminal here. And in the Linux, we do have an account, the root. With the root, it's going to be the root, which is the highest account that, or the strongest account, or the account that has a root privilege. If you act as a root, you can do whatever in the system. Okay, but like you have administrative or super user in the system. We do have a terminal which allow me in order to perform, that usually you're going to sudo something in order to allow the user super user, which allow me to get the privilege of the root in order to perform this command. But if you log in as a root, then you don't need to do the sudo because you already have this privilege. Okay? Yeah. So when you log into the system, the Kali Linux here, you can find this one. Okay? So this is how it looks like when you log in, when you launch the Kali Linux. This is, you see that what we talk about right now, the steps that you're going to perform here is already here. Yeah? You see that we have information gathering, which allow you to have a tool to perform any information gathering. Vulnerability analysis, we see this one. Here you can perform web application, database, password attacks. Things change with the time, by the way. It allow me to perform some exploitation tools. After you perform login, access the system, what we can do. You see that it might be different than what we did, the actual names, but the goal or the outcome is going to be the same. Okay. The most important thing here, you need just to be familiar with the system here. So in the Kali terminal, you can click to find the terminal in the top here, or you can find here, you figure out where the terminal emulator, which allow you in order to find the terminal. Terminal allow me is a command line interface, which allow me to write any command in order to communicate with the kernel of the system. Okay, you can do whatever. Generally speaking, the terminal, when you open the terminals, which allow you in order to write, open what is called the command line environment, which is called shell, which shell is going to allow you in order to run any commands on the underlying operating system or on the kernel. You can do whatever with the terminal. We're going to talk about this one later. Next lecture, when we talk about the shell here. How can you perform this one? So anyway, when you open the terminal, you're going to have something like this. By the way, this is different from the version that we have in the Kali. I know I have a few minutes, so I will do. I think I need to go 1 minute to just go over the rest of the slides. It's going to be much easier. We're going to do this one next lecture, no problem here. But the most important thing I want from you to do the following. Let's jump to the lab because we don't have time and we can continue doing this one next time. So in the lab I think you have access to the lab. And the lab written, give me a second. Yeah, this is the lab. So the lab, all the labs going to be organized as following. Give you overview what you try out. First of all, when you need to submit the lab, this is the due date of the lab next week. You have to finish with this one before Wednesday, because on Wednesday we need to use this one in order to perform something else. Okay, so in the lab, I give you the description, what overview, what you're planning to do, from you to do here. The most important thing, I want from you to install the virtual machine in your computer. If you already have this one, jump to the next step. This is the steps here. For every single lab, again, the structure of the lab, overview, what the learning objective of the lab, what the outcome of this lab, expect from you to learn the following. Install, the virtual machine, install the Kali Linux. Step by step is installed. It's shown in this lab. You need just to follow the step. The first lab is easy. Just end up, we have a Kali Linux, and you have to perform some tasks. Okay. Then, since we talk about, different law, the federal law and the state law and etc., I want from you to just, navigate these laws. So, it depends in your state. You're going to see the labs and one of the tasks the lab required from you to perform. I will just navigate this one. How can you perform the submission? The submission, just to show me, screenshot, whatever you did, it depends on the task. And mainly you're going to say, take a screenshot of whatever you got here and put this one in your report as a PDF or document, then upload it to the Blackboard. So anyway, this is the first part, how to set up, the lab environment, virtual machines. Okay, it's straightforward for the virtual box. Okay, then after that you have to install the virtual box extension pack, which in order to help us in order to how copy for example from the host to exchange the data between the host computer and the virtual machine. Okay, so anyway, just follow this one directly. It's just download file, next, everything's going to be fine. For the Kali Linux here, this will show you how can we download this one. Okay, I'm going to download the most recent one, the most updated one. Okay, I know the time is up, but give me a few seconds. Then just download this one, upload this one to the machine, and you end up, we have, I mean, the Kali Linux. And here, how can you run this one? Just, it depends on you. You're gonna maybe have many virtual machines or many, I mean, instance as installed here. Just click the right one and run this one, and the username and password is Kali. Okay, it's written here. You can just type Kali and the password is Kali, and now you're gonna have the root access. When you have the root access, this is how it looks like. Okay, I want from you to create a folder inside the Kali in order to show me that you installed this one. You cannot track me in this case, because even if you don't do this one, you cannot, if you miss this part, you cannot continue doing the rest of the labs, because all the labs are going to be pasted on this lab. Because right now, next lab, you're going to say, no, open the Kali, then do the following. So you have to do this one. I think it's not going to take from you a long time, just take from you maybe maximum half an hour. It depends on your internet connection that you have. Once you perform this one, now we have the task 2. Now practice some common Linux commands. You need to go, for example, how to perform CD, how to perform whatever kind, create a directory, how can we move from one directory to another directory, and then you change your locations. This is the link. They have 20 basic Kali Linux, so I wanted from you to perform them, and just take a picture, screenshot for these commands that you have. I did this one, copy and paste. You can do all of them, or maybe 5, 6. Take a screenshot and put it in your report. Then after that, I wanted from you to take a look. We talk about there is important why you need to study information security. There is a demanded job for the information security. That's why I wanted from you to take a look to the current ads, which can help you to decide, maybe help you to find job too, to see what they're looking for. IT professional that can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least to give you an idea. Okay, then after that, we need to take a look, since we talk about some vulnerability with the weakness of the system. So I want from you to take a look at the top 25 most dangerous software flaws. So just go to the link, website. This is how can you get the information. So all the outcome in the lab is going to introduce you the different ways how to collect information about the vulnerability. If you know about the vulnerability, then you're going to use this one and also check whether there is any system that you need to test has this kind of vulnerability or not. So I need to keep myself updated here. Okay, then yeah. The last one I wanted from you to go over, since we talk about the federal and the local, law and etc., I need to make sure that we're on the same page. So it doesn't hurt to navigate, for example, since we are right now in Illinois, take a look what the Illinois laws about the, let's say, information about the security, what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do here. Once you did everything, you see that I give you like the command here, or instructor, for example, make a screen capture showing whatever state law, addressing, hacking, unauthorized access, and etc. It's gonna be, interesting. At the same time, you need to familiarize yourself and get used. What kind of law that is already there. Okay. Yeah. That's all, guys, for today. I think the time's, yeah, I think the time's over. Yeah. You still have 6 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, that's why I'm running. Thank you. I thought the time's up for 12:30. That's why I'm try to run faster. So anyway, so let's do this one. So since we have time, thank you very much for telling me that. And I hate you, the rest of the class. Why didn't tell me that? You hear me saying, we need to do this one faster, and no one cares. So anyway, so this is, the virtual machine that we have. We're going to do this one later, okay? We're going to use some of them. We're going to, you see that I'm going to use the virtual machine in order to install, all the virtual instances that it helped me in order to conduct our labs. So we're going to simulate, we have multiple operating systems, and we're going to see how can we connect them. So very important, first, after you install the Kali Linux, just click the start here. And this is the username here. Yeah, it's not clear, but you can see this recording. Kali, the path, and yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it's gonna take. Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit because I mean I'm sharing. Now it's gonna be here. Yeah, give me a second. Okay. One interesting thing about the Kali here, you see that, by the way, it depends on the version that we have. Let me show you something. I like something, for example, try to hide yourself. I mean, to hide, if you try to work with this one, if you want to, oh, this guy hacking. So you can use one trick, it's called Kali Undercover, which allow you, it's like a set of scripts, which allow you in order to change the lock. And it looks like, feel like your Kali Linux desktop is going to be environment and going to be changed to the Windows then. So let's do this one. This is funny if you to start with this one. You can say Kali. Yeah, by the way, first, you see here, this is, I mean, the user that you will log on, we log in as a Kali, and this is the machine name, and this is, I mean, the structure show you that tilde means that in this case you have full control about this one. Anyway, so let's take a look to Kali here. I'm gonna say Kali undercover, which is the command. If hopefully you type this one correctly. When you enter this one, you see now this is the Kali system Unix. It's starting to be like Windows. So now you can do this one even if you have a coffee shop or a place that crowded with people. When you type your command, no one cares. Oh, it's working Windows. It's not doing hacking. So you can use this one and you can type the commands. The system is just, I mean, is like undercover. It changed the desktop from the Kali Linux to the Windows, but you still be able to do the same command. Yeah, that's exactly this, guys. Exact. So now we can do it. Now let's do this one back because I mean we didn't hide anything here. We know exactly what we're doing here. You can do the command again, Kali undercover here, and back to the command that you have here. Okay, so give me a second. I think I need just to open the. I need to go back to the slide. Anyway, the simple thing in order to do what here, I need to, for example, list all the commands or the, let's say, files that I have in the system. You can have ls, okay, and enter. That means give me the list of all, let's say, the files, or if you are familiar with Windows, dir, directory. I'm going to list all the directories that I have in the system here, okay? Another thing, if you want to see, sometimes you forget where you are, okay? I wanted to see, for example, I forget with the user that I use in order to log into the system, or something that you need to have bwd, okay? And they're going to give you, I mean, what's the current directory that I'm on right now. Because you want to perform some commands, you want to change your directory or from one directory to another directory, so you forget exactly where am I right now. So this is a command that you can use here. Another thing you can do here, with the users that I use. Some other guys say, I know the user is already here. Yeah, but if you want to, which user there to use to log into the system, you can use who am I. Just to tell you that you are Kali, the current user that log in. You are logging as a Kali. It's already there. Yeah, I know, but at least sometimes maybe have it change the structure, you disguise yourself to the Windows desktop. Now you'll forget exactly which user you use or you currently access the system right now. Okay, there's another thing, you need to change the directory here. If you wanted to change the directory, for example, I wanted to access, say, I know that the desktop is I'm currently in the root, right? Yeah, because it said, actually in the Kali here, yeah. If you said cd double dot, you're gonna go one step back. Okay, change, for example, the directory, or go, let's say, change up one level. Yeah. Okay, this is my alarm. This means the class is over. So anyway, so those commands, you can test them, and hopefully maybe next lecture we're gonna spend maybe the first 5 minutes to go over all of them. You can take a look at the slides. Yeah, you can change this one. You can create. We can do this one later. Okay, you can create another user, but this is, I mean, the default names here. We have one user Kali and we have a root. Okay, those are going to be installed here. If you want to change that, means you have to create another user, or maybe change the password or the account password, the user. We can talk about this one next time. Okay, thanks guys. That's all. See you on Wednesday. Yeah, the lab is already available in the Blackboard. Okay, And the due date is going to be Tuesday, end of the day, next week. Okay, guys, bye.